when you know what you know and somebody discounts you or doesn't give you the opportunity to shine in that, that's when it's frustrating, when it's just because of the long hair or the, the lipstick and high heels. That's when I get a little bit heated under the collar and go, I'm just going to prove to you.
Welcome back to the Bombshell Business Podcast. I'm your host, Amber Erickson Hurdle, and we are wrapping up the final days of the Bombshell Business Podcast. But don't fret, we're going to have similar conversations. All you have to do is go follow me on YouTube, or you can subscribe to the newsletter at amberhurdle.com/newsletter. And we won't spam you. We're not like weird about anything. We genuinely send you helpful content every single week for free. So we give you branding tips, employer branding tips, personal branding tips, and then whatever content that we created. And as we're getting to the tail end of this, I've been bringing in people that I'm like, I have to have this person on the podcast before we sunset it. And so you met my daughter in the last episode. And today I'm going to give you the Amber bio, and then I'll read the official bio. So today's guest is Narelle Hooker, and I met her in 2020 and during the pandemic. And so she took one of my programs, the very original Velvet Machete Leadership Academy, which was virtual, obviously, during the pandemic. And Narelle instantly just captured my heart. And our relationship evolved from like customer and like, if I've sold it, she's bought it, just to be clear. So like she's done everything I've ever offered. And so we have such an awareness of each other, but we also just have like this inherent connection. And I love Narelle so much as a friend. And then also on the Bombshell side of things, I had an ideal customer profile built out for the Bombshell ICP. And her name was Anne, and she was in Franklin, Tennessee. And she had all these characteristics about her. And that is who the book was written to. And so if you've read The Bombshell Businesswoman, then you can kind of understand like that framework. Now, enter Narelle into my life. And she was so much of Anne, but then she was like this whole other level over here. So I actually changed my brand guide. Narelle's picture is in it underneath the Bombshell. It was not Narelle, it's still Anne, but I adapted it to be more like Narelle because she is truly the quintessential Bombshell. And I know everybody's like, Amber's the original Bombshell, but I'm about to introduce you to the Bombshell, the Bombshell that all decisions since I met Narelle have been made around. Like, would Narelle like this? Yes or no? And I say that because as you listen to her journey today, I think that you'll pick up on what it takes to become a bold, brave woman in business. And then just on a personal side, like I'm even going to try not to tear up right now because we spoke earlier and I just like poured my guts out to her. And she's just somebody that is always there, and I will always be there for her. And I know she'll always be there for me. And she is one of my dearest friends now. So now let me read you her actual bio. Narelle Hooker is the owner of McKenzie Stone Tile in Eugene, Oregon, which is the largest stone shop in their area, and co-owner of All Slab Fabbers, whoop, whoop, an association that brings stone fabricators together worldwide to bring best practices to the industry. As a second-generation stone fabricator, Narelle has carried on her family's legacy with passion and innovation, transforming the business into a leader in the stone fabrication industry. Like, that's an understatement. But anyways, underneath her leadership, McKenzie Stone Tile has embraced cutting-edge technology, significantly enhanced efficiency and craftsmanship. A dedicated wife, what's up, Randy? And mother of 2 adult children with a grandchild on the way, Narelle balances her professional achievements with her roles as a devoted volunteer, an incredible friend, and a thought leader committed to the growth and safety of the stone fabrication community. Finally, I know we've talked about this so many times and we just never quite sync schedules. Welcome to the Bombshell Business Podcast.
Oh, I am so glad to be here. I really am. I can't even, I mean, that I'm so humbled by your words. And back at you, sister. So I absolutely think the world of you. My world is such a better place in this bombshell world because I had somebody like you that was helping me to show me the way and give me that kind of confidence. So it's about time we're here. And I'm
It is
sorry.
about time. You're going to be like the second to last person on the podcast. We squeezed you in.
Yeah. And I got sick at the beginning of this week. I don't even know if I told you that earlier. And I'm like, I am not going to cough. I'm not going to run. I can't get on here sounding like Roz. So this is, so I apologize if I cough in the middle of this, but we're going to get through this. So
that's right. And you look beautiful. So that's
thank you. As do you, my dear.
should help with the puny feeling at least a little bit. So I do want to get like in the way back machine, but can we start in 2020? Because I feel like that was like you turned the ignition and you turned the engine over and then you were off. And it was like, whoa. So what was going on during the pandemic? I can't remember if you were listening to the podcast or whatever that made you.
I had been listening to the podcast for a few months, and I was sharing my office with my assistant at that time, and I think you'd started to talk about, of course, the pandemic hit, and you're having to rebrand yourself and try to figure out what to do with all the time that you weren't speaking on stage now, and just really developing the Velvet Machete Leadership Academy. And my assistant said, you should sign up for that. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't need to spend money on myself. And what is this Velvet Machete thing? And it's, branding and I don't even know what I thought it was going to be. And so with her encouragement, I did, and it had nothing at all to do with anything that I thought I was signing up for. And like I said, I don't even know what I thought I was signing up for, but it was, instantly, instead of talking about my business, we're talking about me and my, basically my childhood wounds and my background and what made me who I am. I'm like, well, what the heck does this have to do with anything for McKenzie? Not realizing that it had everything to do with McKenzie and the way that I show up. So it was, I don't know that if I had realized what it is, would I have signed up for it? And I'm really glad I did. There's no question about it. My team sees a difference in it. So it's been a lot of difference in the last 4 years.
So, well, thank you for that. And I am a strong proponent of sell them what they want, but give them what they need.
Yeah.
Oopsies. And I will say, if you're a listener now, we have definitely evolved the curriculum to be a little more like corporate friendly and that sort of thing. But during pandemic times, I very quickly realized that the people who had enrolled did not need to learn how to lead their team. They actually needed to learn how to lead themselves, invest in themselves, secure themselves, so they could even lead through such a wonky time in world history. So in earnestness, I was adapting the content in real time to the needs of the participants. So we had to switch that because we're not in that season anymore. And I don't think anybody wants to be talking about some of the woo-woo stuff we talked about then. So
pandemic mode where we're in that kind of, unsafe place. So
yeah,
it is. It's what we needed at that time.
Yeah. So you have a really strong team. Just a dedicated, amazing team. I've had the chance to meet them. I've spent time with them. Narelle had us come and we did a employer branding photo shoot. We did some leadership training, some how to fascinate. Everybody learned their personal brand. We did some work with the leadership team and EOS planning. So what steps did you take? Like separate from any influence from me, because that's a really important thing for bombshells to understand, is like, no matter if you hire a coach or you take a program or whatever, like the work is still the work and you have to do the work. So what changed for you, or what action steps did you take after you started like realizing how much you needed to invest in yourself?
Well, I think first I started reading a lot. I was getting some just really good books, reading EOS and Traction, and realizing that I had a business I was working in, but not on. And I had a direction that was Narelle's direction, but it wasn't McKenzie Stone Tile's direction. And I had a business basically that was built on people, and it wasn't scalable and it wasn't sellable. So thinking about future, what did I have to sell? I had a lot of great people, but I didn't know if 10 years I was going to have those same people. So those people really know what they're doing, and they are really good fabricators and they're really good salespeople. But what would I be able to put on paper that looked of value? So if I stepped out for a month, would I be able to?
Yeah.
And so it was so important to me at that time. And I think that's where Velvet Machete gave me the confidence in myself and where I wanted to go. And then from there, it was like, it just started snowballing into bigger and bigger, and not necessarily bigger and bigger, more business, but more confidence to say, I can do that. And I can buy, equipment. I can do the research and find out what kind of equipment I want, what's going to scale me. I couldn't just throw more bodies at it. I needed to have equipment, processes, technology to be able to take us to this next step. So it was no longer, what we were doing was no longer working. It's fine if I wanted to stay 12 people, but if we were growing and we wanted to scale that, I had to have not just the right people in place, but the processes. So if that person moved on, someone else could raise up into that really easily. I'd have the equipment to be able to do the kinds of projects that we wanted to be able to do. So that's kind of, and probably I guess it was the fall of 2021, I chose a leadership team, and we met not as often as we should, but probably every couple of weeks we would have a meeting, getting our minds together. We worked on, just the basics, like our core values and our mission statement. And it became something that it was no longer Narelle's mission or my rules. It was McKenzie's, and every part of our team understood that. They knew what our core values were because we made them as a team. And then it was probably 2023 that I moved out of my office. That was amongst everything that I knew. I mean, I'm not the front end girl that does the books and does the sales. I'm the back end girl. I'm the one that, solves the problems. And if there's an issue, I'm right in the middle of the thick of it. Is there a problem on install? Let me know what's going on. We need to get out there. We need to do this. If there's a change that needs to happen in production, let's get to the bottom of it. But because I was in the middle of it all, if there was an issue, I was the one everybody looked to. And it was easy for me to answer because I knew it all, because I'd been here since 1996, been doing it for a long time. So, but what I realized is that wasn't allowing my team to build up. They weren't allowed to make their own decisions, not because I didn't want them to, but because of that proximity. It just became, it's easier to get that answer from the one who's making, who's paying the bills, kind of.
Right.
Who's the one who, but I needed everybody to build up to that point where they knew what I would do, or they knew what we needed to do for the customer, or we knew what, and the only way I could do that is to move my office to the far other end, up into the sales realm. And I can tell you, I mean, I love everybody that I'm working with. So it's not a big deal, but it was hard because now I didn't get to do what I enjoyed doing either. So, but my team grew because of it. And I'm so grateful for them stepping into that.
Yeah. It was fun just watching some of your leadership team in real time, because I know that Marcus and Carl, and I'm calling you guys out on purpose because the end of the story is a good one, but they were kind of like, what are we doing? What is this Fascinate thing? What are you spending money on, Narelle? What the heck? And then to watch everyone very quickly understand how valuable they were and how critical they were to the big picture, And for the leadership team to watch, your fabricators and salespeople and everyone really light up and kind of go through very quickly the longer process that you went through, what kind of impact did that have on the employee experience as a whole once every person on the team that you invested in understood their distinct value?
Oh, it was like night and day. I mean, first of all, after that event, Carl particularly was one that came and said, "We're going to do this every year, right? He's going to come back every year and do this with us, right?" So, yeah, it was so impactful for them. I mean, these are guys that, I mean, we're talking about the fabricators who don't usually get this fun woo woo stuff at the ballroom, the Valley River Inn kind of experience. And so to be able to give that space to them to be able to understand not just who they were and what they brought to the team, but also who the people that they worked with were, and what everybody's position and everybody's part that they played, and how we all communicate differently with each other. And it was such a great experience. I can't, it is something I would love to be able to do something every quarter that
Yeah.
had the same impact to just rile up everybody's spirits. But, for lack of a better term, it was so fascinating to watch.
Well, you did such a great job with, like, I still have my mug with my Fascination Advantage on it and my archetype and everything. But like, you made everyone feel very important, and it was democratized. Like, everybody had the same access. It didn't matter their level of leadership or how much they got paid or what their job was. Like, everyone was treated exactly the same by you, which was beautiful. But I share that, as we're wrapping up the podcast, to just reinforce, like, Narelle got her personal brand right. Then her team understood their personal brands, which then created the employer brand of, like, oh, this is a really great place to work and we all like working with each other and we like working here. And then what does that do then for the customer experience and the business brand when they're more committed? Not to say that it's perfect, because it's never perfect.
No, it's never perfect. Yes, it is a nice thought that, and then we all lived happily ever after. So,
Right.
but
Yeah. Wouldn't that be? And we
what it
never had another problem again.
yeah,
The
no,
end.
all problems were solved. But it did give us that basis to go back to. Each time that we, find ourselves in another, either another growth time or, I mean, we've grown from that time. I think we were probably about 18 employees at that time, and we are 31 right now. And that's
So
it's
crazy.
it's just, yeah, but it's also like the more people, the scarier it can get, and the
Yes.
quicker that you can lose control over that personal space that you want to have, and keep hold of for each person who's part of your team. It makes that leadership team even more important. And so it's investing in the team to where they're an extension of you.
Right.
If I can get to all 31 people to let them know how important they are, I need my brand. I need McKenzie's brand to be shining that through as an extension of me, but not Narelle. It's something that the whole team is built together, and so it's been beautiful that way.
Yeah. It's been super fun to watch too. So I also want to touch on, like, your team has grown, but then you already had, when I met you, I think you might have updated some equipment since we met to actually when I was in Eugene. But I mean, you have some impressive equipment, like really impressive, high tech, can go faster than, 3 times faster than other machines. Like, you can only get it out of Italy. I mean, like, you've got some serious stuff, and you have like this whole water system. Like, your technology is incredible and helps you with your efficiency. So we could talk about that, but then I want to add the layer of the fact that you just got bigger physically from a footprint too. So how freaking scary was all of that?
It was really, I think when it comes up like that, well, let's back up to the equipment first, because the equipment all kind of came down along the same time as, that was during COVID.
Yeah.
Um, and we were busier. then I mean, I feel for the companies that were really hurt by COVID and who had to shut down during that time, and financially not a great time for many people. For us in construction, there was a lot of work. A lot of people were sitting home looking at their kitchens and wanted something different. And then, and they had, stimulus money to help pay for it, or they had the time, or they, so we had to make that pivot at that time and change and say, okay, this is where we need to go is in and again, to further stabilize our company as a company, not just a group of people. So the equipment has changed the way that we look at projects and the way that we can what we can produce in a shorter amount of time, or with a better quality, or with, it's allowed us to be able to take on some big projects that otherwise would have probably, crippled our shop and not been able to do anything else. Now we can kind of run those simultaneously with something else. And so it's a lot of juggling with that. But, and then, this year I'd always wanted to have a slab yard where we can, or a shop where I could have, full slabs for clients to choose from.
And not have to go to Portland to pick out.
Yeah, nobody wants to go 2 hours up the road to a city that's, has really struggled in the last couple of years. Nobody wants to go to Portland, and I'm sorry, Portland, we still love you, but and I have some great distributors in Portland still, but people wanted to be able to just stay here. People have become real homebodies.
Oh yeah,
in the last few years as well, and so it just happened. This building has another building attached to it, another 9,000. We had 12,000 square feet, and we've been here in this location since 2014 with that. And we were just frankly full. There was no more room. There was no more electrical. I had no more power coming in my building, so I sat on a water system for 6 months, maybe 9 months, waiting to get enough power to be able to even run it. And for what we do, we have to have a lot of water. Yeah. One of our machines, I think, goes through like 7-10 gallons a minute of water. So we recycle all of our water. It's important for us to have clean water because of the kind of stuff that we do. And so when we're out of power and we're out of room and there's growth potential, but there's no room to do it because we're tripping over pallets of tile as well. And so it's just, we're cranky because another department stuff is in our area. And so, April got a call that the tenants right next door had vacated overnight. And it wasn't supposed to happen until 2025. So my mind is not on expanding. My mind right now was on getting processes better, getting more efficient, doing blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, and you can have 9,000 more feet. So it was a lot to think about. And I give props to my husband, Randy, who said, you put slab in there and I'll sell it. You don't have to figure it all out. We're going to figure it out together. And I'm like, and he's my fiscally conservative guy.
Yeah, he's not the risk taker in this relationship.
Why are we buying mugs with our logo on it? Why are we doing, yeah. And he's like, yeah, let's get 9,000 feet and make it work. So it's I mean, I do say I'm my German father's daughter, who he knows no fear. I do know fear, but I only think about it a little bit and let's do it.
Yeah.
So we are now 21,000 square feet and we have a slab gallery. So the McKenzie Slab Gallery is open.
Whoop, whoop. It's so amazing too. I'll try to, I know you sent me a video and I've got some videos that I took when I was there. So I'll try to weave those in well, I was joking with Narelle before because so many of our podcast listeners listen on Apple Podcasts. Like that is where our listenership is. And we started putting it on YouTube. And so this will tell you how much I love Narelle. We started putting on YouTube, which is a bit of a lift to do it that way. And there's like, 8 people that watch it, and Narelle is one and Randy is the other. And because they watch it on YouTube, we keep putting it on YouTube. So
Thank you. Thank you. I like seeing your beautiful face when I'm listening to your voice.
I love it when Randy, like when I was in Tennessee, so you won't see me much in a beanie down here because it's hot all the time in Florida. But in Tennessee, I get cold. And one time Randy was like, beanie this week, huh? Okay, go Amber. I'm like, oh yeah, I forget that like we see each other every week.
As I'm putting my makeup on, he's walking by.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, Amber morning, Thursday morning, Amber morning.
So let's go a little bit in the Wayback Machine, because you took this business over and bought it from your dad.
Yes.
And so there's another, like, I know you're a daddy's girl and you guys have a great relationship and all that good stuff, but I think there is still, for most women, going into a male dominated industry and taking over daddy, and everybody's used to dealing with daddy, and now you got this chick Narelle that's in charge. So what was that like?
What does she know, right?
Right.
Well, growing up, I mean, I was 25 when we started the business, and so I was pregnant with my son, who now is one of my leaders here, at that time, and it was, it's funny because I kept thinking as I worked there, I was kind of in and out as I was raising kids, and I remember thinking, if I could just get to 32, then I would be respected. I would have that respect for, I don't know why I thought 32 was the magic number, but
35 for me, that was my number. Then I'll be respected. Yeah.
It didn't happen at 32. No, and I remember I had one guy one time, a contractor came in, and his name was Sam, and Sam came in and he says, and I was the only one there, and he says, "Is Gerald there?" It's my dad. And I said, "Yeah, is Gerald around?" I'm like, "No, I'm sorry, he's out on a job." And he says, "Well, anybody else who knows anything around here?" And thankfully I knew Sam. I didn't know him well, but I'm like, "Oh, but Sam, give me a chance." And then I'm like, "Please, Lord, let me know the answer to this, because I have no idea what he's going to ask me." And he asked me about an ADA shower, and I had just looked into it the day before, and I had all the right answers, and I'm like, thank you, God, that it was. But it was an uphill battle. I will say, because I was Gerald's daughter, it got me in. It got me one chance.
Yeah.
So when they found out I was Gerald's daughter, because they knew him and knew he knew what he was doing, maybe, well, let's give her a chance. And so I appreciated at least that in. But I don't like to use the girl card, but yeah, being a woman in construction can, when you're talking to the contractor about something, and I was in the showroom one day doing this, and then they start talking to the guy that's standing next to you, who happens to be Carl, who knows a lot as well, but Carl is always so gracious to say, she's the one that you need to be looking to. She's the one that, she's the owner here. And they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But it can't be.
But you don't have testicles. How can you be the owner of a construction company?
How can I know what kind of equipment I want to buy? How would I know what kind of overhang support we need for our, a 14-inch overhang on granite do we need? And it's just on and on and on. And so, but you surround yourself with people who hold you up. Like, my team never has treated me like I was the girl. Right. I have always been treated with the respect that I've worked hard to get. It's not that I deserve it or anything, but when you know what you know, and somebody discounts you or doesn't give you the opportunity to shine in that's when it's frustrating, when it's just because of the long hair or the lipstick and high heels, that's when I get a little bit heated under the collar and go, I'm just going to prove to you. So.
Yeah. Well, you're not like the rough and tumble woman either. You're not like I don't color my hair and there's no knock to any of that, but you're not that person who maybe would have a little more just instant like grit kind of, which you're full of grit, to be
No,
clear.
I
With
love
the
wearing
assumption,
heels
because you're
out and
glamorous.
about. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I've always been. I like my feminine side. For
That's
sure.
right. Yeah. And you've
I
never
grew up in a
hidden that.
country. I liked to wallow in mud puddles too. So
Right. Yeah. Because she goes hunting and fishing and all that stuff too. So
yeah,
there's that. But let's fast forward now, because all the way back, took the business over, bought it from your dad, been running it, had those type of experiences. And then now let's fast forward, because it was, oh, I don't even remember exactly when, but maybe like a year in, we started really looking at not your personal brand in terms of like as you lead your team and that, but like externally kind of positioning you, not necessarily, and I don't want to make it sound like we have some maniacal plan to position you, but like, okay, I've got it nailed on the inside. Let me make sure that I'm a respected leader in the industry as well, because it does open doors and it does give you opportunities. But then you just like blew the doors off. And now like I won't say consult, but you advise some of the largest companies in the industry. You are co-owner of one of the industry associations and command so much respect. And it's you and a bunch of dudes. Hi, dudes, because I've met them and I love them too. And what was the switch in your brain that made you go like, oh, okay, I can be Narelle at McKenzie Stone Tile and in Eugene, Oregon, and I can be Narelle in the industry too?
well, I think the desire for all slab flowers and what that group means to me and why I'm there, the desire to work with other companies and work with other fabricators and just and not even consulting in any manner, more just rubbing shoulder to shoulder with them and learning from them. It's that came from early on. My dad was director of ISFA, which was International Solid Surface Fabricators, and he was our regional director, and it was his passion as well to to have chapter meetings and to see is there anything that we can do to help each other and to what are the best practices for our industry, and just making sure that we are growing the not growing McKenzie, but growing the product and growing our craft together.
Yeah.
And so that was modeled to me early on. And I'd been to a few workshops of different groups, and I landed, I guess it was 2022, maybe 2021. Gosh, now I can't even remember. I think it was 2021. And I went to a workshop in Utah, and it felt right. It felt like this is the group, this is the kind of people that I can connect with, that I can be myself with. And so, and I will say I attribute it to the confidence that your practices through Velvet Machete Leadership gave me to be able to say, hey, I went in on what you guys got. And I don't know what it looks like. And I'm not looking for money. I'm not looking, I like what you're doing. And I think I have something to bring to the table. And if you don't like what I have to offer, then kick me to the curb, because I'm 50 years old and I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't have feelings anymore.
And Chris like matched that energy with like, awesome, because I don't care what anybody else thinks either. We're friends.
Yep. I love Chris. He's from South Carolina, and I tease him all the time about this because he says, so where's your husband?
Yeah.
Like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Again, yeah. But and that was, I think that's the thing I now kind of help a lot of other women in this industry too, and remind them that these guys are good guys. They don't mean to come off like Chris Hildebrand saying, where's your husband?
It's not nefarious. It's an earnest question.
No, he just wanted to know. He was just like, because I know I'm a unicorn. I know this isn't the norm. Most women who are at a workshop in somebody's shop are not geeking out over the equipment like I am.
Yeah.
They just aren't. And so
they're doing the accounting or the payroll or the HR.
And I've met so many in this industry that are doing what I'm doing, but it's just not it's not the norm. But yeah, it's one of the things that I really try to teach and try to give back to some of the younger women is like, don't be offended. Don't be
Yeah.
offended when the Sam Olsons of the world come in and say, is there anybody who knows anything and is completely discounting you? Your job is to learn every bit of it. You don't fabricate, that's all right. You don't need to fabricate. You need to know how the fabricators do it.
Right.
Why do you need to know what pads you're using? Because that will impress them when you say, well, we have a 3-step pad. This is what we do, blah, 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 blah. And when you know your stuff, you don't have to be the one doing it, but you know what you're talking about. You're able to talk the language. They will give you the respect at that point. You got to earn it. You can't just come in and be upset that somebody's not giving you the opportunity. You can say, give me the opportunity, like I did with Sam at the age of like 28, I think I was, I don't know. And I just said, give me a chance.
Well, and I think by and large, and people can have different opinions on this, but I mean, I've worked in the construction industry for a long time now, and I love it. And I love it because there are no filters, and you just say what needs to happen, and you say what you expect, and you say what you're curious about, and you just say it, and you just keep going. And I don't think that, like, it's weird because you would think, oh, construction industry, that must be like the men in the construction industry because it's so, and no, I find the men of the construction industry to be less prone to be misogynist than like in corporate America.
Yes, I believe that as well.
Yeah.
We do approximately 3 workshops a year, and find myself in, a group of a lot of men from all around the country, as well as people coming over from the UK to our workshops. And it's just been, I have had nothing but respect from these guys. So
yeah,
it's not, while yes, there are things that we still have to fight for, still have to,
of course,
put up with, or the bin, whatever. All in all, I am so blessed by the industry that I'm in. They embrace me for being a girl, and sometimes I'm in heels, and sometimes I don't have to be grungy to get along. We just do what we do, and we really enjoy learning from each other. So, saying that I have consulted with companies, I can't even tell you. I have been told that I have made a huge difference in a couple people's lives. And I honestly have no idea how that happened, because we're just having a conversation on a Friday night. That's how it happens. That's when lives are changed. That's when people feel supported, and they feel heard, and they feel empowered to go back and step into it again, and maybe regroup and take another step towards what their goal is. So,
and I think that's why it's so easy to like pour into you, or I mean, I play favorites. We all know this. So, and I'm not ashamed of it, because like if you're doing the work and you're investing in yourself, then I'm going to play favorites. And one of the reasons why you so quickly became my favorite is because, like, whether it was me or somebody else or a book or a friend, when somebody invests in you, you in turn pour it out into the next person. So what response, you've done a lot of mentorship over your life. I mean, you've done things with women, you've done things with church, you've done things in the industry. Where do you think that the mentorship side of things has actually, because you've poured into other people, you've been blessed in return?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's, I don't know that I could keep information in.
No.
So if I'm not talking to somebody who needs it, then what would be the point in talking? And so, looking to people that feel you, and as well as being a vessel to be filled, those are the people that I'm drawn to. And there's, we get those at the shows as well, where you sit down with somebody and they know it all, and they don't, it's like, I'm not going to sit here very long. It's just, you're not open. You're not open to me. You're not open to here. And I'm not really
not open to learning.
Not really interested in seeing all the kitchens that you've done, because guess what? We've done a bunch of kitchens too. So,
yeah.
We don't need to see your pictures. I just want to, yeah. But is there some reciprocation there? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We get more out of like a Thursday or Friday night sitting out by a fire pit at some hotel and talking than we ever do even at the workshop with any kind of, produced event, because that's where people start kind of tearing off the layers. And that's where I can tear off the layers too. And I can be vulnerable and say, look, this is what I'm having problems with. So it's a two-way street. I don't know if I have actually even consciously thought about what I'm doing as mentoring as much as I am. I desire relationships. So
yeah. Well, you're so high in passion and fascinate, so that's not a surprise.
Yes, I'm a little high in passion.
A little high in passion, as am I. This reason 9,428 while we're so close. So I had to figure out how to slide this in somehow. So I'm not sure there's going to be like a smooth transition, but I just have to tell everybody, like, this is who Narelle is. So we had a women's leadership retreat in Miramar Beach, like Sandestin, Florida. Everybody was just so burned out, so tired of being locked up. It was a little bit, I think, before we were even like stamped to do any type of events. But so many people that were in the group coaching program at the time were essential workers. And while everybody else was watching the Tiger Show, you all were busting your butts. You know what I mean? Like, you were nonstop. And everyone, for the most part,
I still haven't watched the Tiger Show.
I haven't either. I haven't. But because it's local, like, he still does interviews from jail on the local news here. It cracks me up. I'm like, what is happening? So anyways, we have this. So I look at everybody. I'm like, do you guys want to go to the beach? Should we do it? Should we do a retreat? So
and we're like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, just being responsive to customers or whatever is like, okay, let's do it. Let's go. So we had this amazing experience. It changed my life. None of us left the same.
No.
But this woman pulls up. Apparently there was like some kind of hiccup with rental cars at the time. There was some giant hailstorm in some city. And so like there weren't rental cars in Panama City, which is where you fly into to get to Miramar. And so this chick pulls up to my condo there in a bright yellow Porsche.
Convertible.
Yeah. As only Narelle can. And everyone like was around it, taking pictures with it. And, she's just you're the bloom where you're planted. MacGyver, give me some bubble gum and a tweezer and like a toothpick and I will figure it out. And like you took something that was like, ooh, bummer. Like you flew all the way across the country from Oregon to Florida. Who knows how many stops you had. And then got there, couldn't get a rental car in advance. So you like literally made yellow Porsche lemonade out of your lemons.
Well, actually, to correct you, I couldn't get a car before I left. So I went on I'm like, I'm getting a car and I want a nice car. So I went on to Turo and found a privately owned yellow Porsche that was, I had a few things we could have got. I could have got a Jeep. I could have got, it's like, heck no.
No.
We're going to Florida.
I'm rolling up to Hotel Effie.
Yeah. And I was bringing one of my girls with me. And so I showed her a picture. This is what we're going with this. And I showed her my phone. It's like, because why not? We could have got a Toyota or we could have got a Jeep or we could, but why not? It's not even about like, why not spend the money? Well, the car suit, because maybe we fiscally shouldn't, but it was about, this is something we needed to do for us. Yeah. And driving up and down Florida, streets there in a little yellow Porsche was just, it was fun. It was good. And we needed that for us.
You did.
So it was great. Oh yeah. No, I knew I was getting that Porsche when I got there.
Yeah. And it was so awesome that you and Chesney stayed a little bit later because we had like the event staff had like a little spa day and then the pool, and you guys were still there, and we got some like good, like all the intensity of the, I mean, that was just such an intense emotional retreat and leadership. And we talked about business things and everything, but it was really about restoring our own souls, and woven through all the leadership and personality type stuff. And just to be able to have you there specifically at the end to celebrate and decompress with, that was amazing.
That was a very, I mean, it wasn't a planned moment. It was, but I think it's so important at the end of those kinds of things before you just jump back on a plane. And that was purposeful. It was purposeful for you and your team. And it was purposeful for me and Chesney to be able to have that day afterwards, not just to, end it on whatever night we ended it and then jump on a plane the next day. It's like, no, we need to breathe.
Let it simmer.
Let it simmer. And let's just, enjoy this little Porsche.
Yeah.
What a blessing, to be able to then spend that time with you and your team. It was for us as well. So, and I still have my robes from
Girl, me too. I think of you every time I put it on.
Yep.
We all got Hotel Effie robes. So thank you, Team Hotel Effie. I actually have a friend who works there now.
We did not steal them. We bought them.
We purchased them. We sure did. Yes. Okay. So many things. Before I ask her the final question that I ask every bombshell or every guest, I just kind of want to recap. And the reason why I even brought the yellow Porsche up is because I think you can see a theme in Narelle, and it's a huge reason why I'm so attracted to her as a human being, is that even if it's scary, even if it's hard, even if she doesn't have all the answers, even if she doesn't look the part, even if, being female in a very male dominated world, no matter what the external obstacles are, or what's the word I'm looking for? I can't come up with it, but no matter what's going on externally, she has an inner fortitude that's like, nope, this is what we're going to do. And this is what I want. And I really don't know how I'm going to get there, but I do know the next step. And I think that is one of the most powerful positions you can have in life, to just take the next step. And you do that relentlessly.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't do it alone. And I have the right people in the mix to take that step with me. So I think that's so important.
You're surrounded by, people, when I tell you that I know Narelle's family, I know her staff, I know her close friends, like I know her All Slab Fabbers people, like Mark DeFusco. What's up, Mark? that maniac is in my life, and I say that lovingly, Mark, you know that, but I'm a lunatic, so we're a great pair. But he's just a wild man, and he's such a great, like, I love him to death, and I love his business, and so, like, you surround yourself with those type of people, and then I get the luxury of getting to know them as well. But here's the last question, and then we'll talk about where we can find you. What parting piece of advice, if they forgot everything else that we talked about, it could be something you already talked about, it could be something completely different, but what parting piece of advice would you give to a bombshell, a bold, brave, and waveringly confident woman, or somebody who's aspiring to that and working towards that?
I think what drives me a bit, and I would say it drives me, but it's something that I really, I try to be mindful of. And I think behind me, I have be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.
Yeah.
And while I love that, and I love, when people say, don't stop, don't ever give up. And, those are all great things, but I'm going to kind of throw a wrench in it and say, also be open to pivots.
Yeah.
The funniest thing, I'm sure, is when I tell God what my plan is.
Well, you know how that's gone for me.
And he says, and it's never God's plan. I mean, God is my world. And so, if people believe in different beliefs, then that's fine. So for me, for myself, it's, I know that without a shadow of a doubt, that my plan pales in comparison to what my God has for me.
That's right. So
when I am so focused, and when I hear that, don't ever give up on this. If this is your dream, do it. Sometimes I feel like we can get too blindsided, that we close in and we're too focused on it, and we miss so many opportunities and blessings that could have come our way. So I think I've kind of learned to not really have a huge expectation or not have, I mean, I set goals, but my goals are often evolving and changing, because what looks like my goal today, it may change in 6 months or a year. And so being able to pivot and feel the gentle nudges from God, from me. So when I think about that, in fact, I was just telling this story today to somebody. When you have that horse that hasn't been broken, that young horse, and you're just jerking him around all the time because you're trying to get him to go left and you're pulling the reins left. And the more in tune they get and the more broken or trained that horse gets, they feel the gentle nudges from the reins. And that's the pivots that I try to be open to see and not be so focused in on what my idea was or my absolute, written in stone goal is. I don't know what that goal is going to evolve to. So while I'm passionate and while I have a lot of fire in my belly for a lot of things, I also know that pivoting sometimes gives me a better result for a dream that I had no idea could have even come my way.
Yeah. What's the saying, like, be ruthless with the vision, but flexible with the steps, or flexible with the plan? I'm probably butchering that, but that's kind of what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And knowing there's, a path isn't always straight. The path to isn't ever straight, I should say, so your goal and you got a path from here to here, it's not going to be like that. It's kind of going to be a lot like that.
Yeah. Right. Well, you've been on my zigzag path, that's for sure. It's like, hey, let's take a hard left right here. You want to come? Let's go.
And whether that hard left, produced fruit, but it needed to be, you needed to be on that hard left for a moment before you got to the back on that path, because that gave you the gumption and the chutzpah to be able to get to that goal that you needed.
That's so true. Oh my gosh, we could do a whole other episode just on that topic. But so we'll put a pause on that and come back to that for another video. But before let me ask this. Okay, so we can find you on LinkedIn. You're definitely a LinkedIner.
Yes.
And then what's that?
And that's where business is done.
And that is where, yes, see, you can tell that she listens to the podcast, because I'm like, get on LinkedIn, stop watching cat videos. And your McKenzieSurfaces.com, right?
It's McKenzie Surfaces or McKenzie Stone Tile. ST, both of those go to my domain. So it goes to my website.
And then All Slab Fabbers is allslabfabbers.com.
Yep.
And do you have any events coming up? I know you just had one.
We are working on our next event now. We have not publicized what we're doing and when we're doing it yet. So to be determined.
Yeah, TBD, so get on their newsletter. Yeah.
Yep.
Anywhere else that they can find you that to connect?
Facebook is a good spot for to see a lot of what we're doing. And we have our TikToks and shorts and stuff on there. In fact, on our Facebook page right now, you can find our, we busted that wall down in between the two buildings is on there. So that's McKenzie Stone Tile as well. I'm on Facebook personally, Narelle Hooker. So yeah.
I'll put all of that. I'm sorry, I'm not taking credit for that. Jean will put all of that in the show notes, because we got to give credit where credit is due.
Thank you, Jean.
Yeah, she's amazing. And before I say goodbye to the audience on behalf of us, I just I thought I was gonna get through this episode without crying. Let me see if I can say it. Let me see if I could just you are so important to me, Narelle. And if business had nothing to do with it, I'm just so grateful that God put you in my life, and that you are one of my closest friends and somebody that I trust so much. Yeah. And you've been on the journey with me, and the good and the scary and the bad and my mistakes and my victories and everything in between. And have just been like the greatest cheerleader, champion, and solid friend. So I love you and thank you.
I love you. I'm back at you.
Okay, Bombshell. I did it. I think I got through without tears streaming down my face. I'm getting better at my emotional regulation. So we're almost done. I think this is a second to last. And then we have the final episode with a surprise change of events because I'm getting interviewed. And so I will keep it a secret who that is that will be interviewing me, but it's another very important woman in my life. And so again, just make sure follow Narelle. I promise you want to follow Narelle because she's so fun. And go to amberhurdle.com/podcast with an S to get the show notes where you can connect with her and get all the different links. And then amberhurdle.com/newsletter. If you sign up for that, then we can ensure that we continue to keep you posted about the content that we're creating. And then you can follow me on YouTube because we'll be a little more focused on that. We're still trying to decide if it's going to be a podcast as well, but definitely on YouTube. And I will see you on the next and final episode. See you next time.